everybody, it's Emily from ARG Schooling, and today I'm going to bring you my June wrap-up. So in the month of June, I read a total of 5 books, and I'm just going to show you what I read. So the first book I finished in June was The Outlaws of Sherwood by Robin McKinley, and this is a Robin Hood retelling, and I read this for grade 10. I really enjoyed it. I'm not a huge fan of Robin Hood stories overall, but this was a really interesting and well-written retelling of that mythology, and I really liked it. I liked that Robin is sort of a side character in this story because it's more about the outlaws, the band of outlaws that kind of form around him, and I liked that this felt like a really good origin story to the mythology, because this focus is more on the Saxons versus the Normans, as opposed to just how in most of the Robin Hood stories it's him against the sheriff, which I thought that was really interesting, and I enjoyed that aspect of the story. I also really liked several of the outlaws themselves. I thought they were really interesting characters on their own. I really liked the romance that was happening with some of the characters, so I don't want to mention because spoilers, but I enjoyed the story a lot. And Robin McKinley's writing is beautiful, and I want to read more of it. Our Read Like a Mom book club pick for the month of June was Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys, and I loved this. I knew that I was going to like it. I'd read like half of the book about a year ago, and I set it down not because I didn't want to read it, but because I had so many other things to read and I just sort of forgot about it. So I've been dying to read it again, and this was a great opportunity to do so. And I hate to say that I loved it because it's pretty upsetting, but the story really gripped me and it really drew me in, and I thought it was really interesting because this is a story you don't often hear told. I've read a lot of books about World War II, but I have never heard of what was happening in the Baltic states, the Baltic countries of Latvia and Estonia and Lithuania. And this one is about a girl from Lithuania and her family and what happens to them during the war. Basically, Stalin sort of purges those countries and takes them for himself, but he gets rid of all the people that were living there, and anyone who would be on his list for whatever reason, because they were academics or any reason that he saw fit, he would send them all to Siberia. And so this story follows Lena and her family as they are torn from their homes and their lives and sent to prison camps in Siberia, and it's such a harrowing story. And then to know that these people, if they survived it and got home, they were never allowed to speak of it. If they talked about it, they could be arrested. So they had to sort of like hold all these things inside of them, and it was these deep dark secrets, and that's just so upsetting to me to think that part of the healing process is to talk about the awful thing that happened to you, and to be forced to keep that to yourself is pretty depressing. So I feel like more people should read this book because more people should know what happened. And it was harrowing and sad, but also very gripping, and I enjoyed the reading experience. I also read Mouse, A Survivor's Tale by Art Spiegelman. This is the first one. I actually bought the second one fairly recently because I want to keep reading it, but I just haven't gotten to it yet. This is a graphic novel, and it's about a son kind of interviewing his father about his experiences during the war, during World War II. But he draws everything as the Jews are all mice, Germans and the Nazis are all cats. It's sad and interestingly told, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't as amazing as I thought. I don't know, I think this is one of those books that was so hyped in my mind that I wanted more out of it, but I still really enjoyed it. And I'm definitely interested in reading the second book. On my Kindle at night, and I happen to have this copy, so I actually read both of them, but I read Philippa Gregory's The King's Curse. I think it's the 6th book in the Cousins War series. And this one follows Margaret Pole as she lives through the reign of Henry VIII. And it was a really interesting perspective. I had never read anything from her perspective before. She's always sort of been a background character in all the histories that I've read at about that time. And I knew what happened to her, so I was really interested to see like what led up to that for her. And it was really good. It's Philippa Gregory. I'm trash for her books. I really enjoyed it. The story is basically, if you've read anything on Tudor history, it's the story of Henry's reign. It starts actually with Margaret taking over the role of guardian for Arthur when he goes to Wales, and his marriage to Catherine of Aragon and his death, and then she befriends Catherine of Aragon and they become best friends, and so she kind of has this in with her so that she becomes her lady of waiting when she marries Henry VIII, and then she also assumes the role of guardian for Mary Tudor when she's born, and it's definitely an interesting view into that whole story. And if you don't know the story of Henry VIII, I would recommend any of the other books about him first, because this kind of glosses over a lot of the things that were happening during his reign, since it's focusing more on Margaret Pole's story. But I really enjoyed it. And the last book I read this month was a read aloud with my youngest, and we read Poppy by Avi because she picked it. I had another book planned. I don't remember what I had pulled out, and she was like, no, we're not reading that. We're reading this. So we read this. And I love the story. It's fun to read aloud. We got really into the whole story with Mr. Okax and Poppy and Aerith, and we're about halfway through Aerith's birthday, I think. Yeah, Aerith's birthday, which is not the sequel to this, but whatever. It's like the third or fourth in the series. I had it on hand and she wanted more about Aerith, so there you go. So we're reading that now, and they're just really cute little children's stories about animals. And that is all the books that I read in the month of June. So what did you read? I'd love to hear about it. Share down below in the comments and we can talk. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.